I'm very honored. Thank you for asking me to come and speak in this Women in Music series. That's very exciting. When I was thinking about, well, what am I going to talk about, my journey through music. Well, the bio that Erica just read you, that was a little synopsis of it, but my journey through music has been very not a straight line. Yeah, so I wanted to tell you a little bit about that, and then how do I feel about being a woman in music. So I'm an early childhood music specialist, aside from marching band. I got to split myself in half. I'm a marching band specialist, but I'm also an early childhood music specialist. And in early childhood music development, we believe that every human is innately musical, every single one. You know that some people may think, well, you know, I can't sing, or well, people say, I don't sing, I have no musical ability, or whatever. That's false. There are very, very few people who are actually tone deaf, and there are very, very few people who actually have no musical ability at all. I think that just culturally, it's not, we don't work it. We don't work it at a young enough age for people to realize that. So I applaud all of you, certainly, for being people who appreciate music, who make music, and who foster the love of music by being in band, by supporting band, by performing in whatever way you can musically. That's awesome. As if you choose to be a parent, I would definitely encourage you to raise your children in that way, to think of music not as something that you're either good at or not good at, but something you were born to do. They don't have to be musicians. They don't have to grow up and be proficient, even proficient in an instrument. But they can understand music, just in the same way that they understand language. Okay, well, we'll get to all that. But how did I get there? I think I always loved music. There was always music playing in my house. My mom liked classical music and show tunes, and my dad, I think my dad would have been a great jazz musician. You know, he didn't have the training, but he listened to everything. And he's a guy who would say, I can't sing. I never heard him sing a note in his life. He would whistle through his teeth. But I think he would have made a great jazz musician. So I grew up listening to Stan Kenton. That was his absolute favorite. He had every single album. Duke Ellington, all the big bands there. But he also listened to blues. And he also loved to listen to lady singers, Ella Fitzgerald and Aretha Franklin and Roberta Flack and all. And then Linda Ronstadt, Barbra Streisand, all of that. So I had this amazing amount of music that came into my ears. But there were no musicians in my family. My grandmother played the piano, but I didn't know that because by the time she was a grandmother, she didn't have a piano anymore. So I never saw her play. No one in my family played music. Then one day in 5th grade, I came home and there was a piano in the living room. My parents decided to just go for it. They got a used piano and stuck it in the living room. Now I have 4 siblings, and I thought, well, who gets to play that? And luckily, it was me. So I got the piano lessons with the teacher that was right up the street, and I took to it right away, thankfully. So I took 7 years of piano lessons, but and I liked it, and I still play the piano, and I like it, but that's not what spoke to me. What spoke to me, right to my soul, marching band. As soon as I saw it. My sister was 4 years older, and she was in the marching band in high school. And when I saw them perform, you know that feeling where your heart just starts to beat really wildly, and you're like, I have to do that. But I was too young, I couldn't do it yet. And she was in the color guard. She was a flag. And I was like, well, that's cool. I want to do that. But really, I saw the person playing the xylophone. It wasn't a very big pit back then, she was just playing the xylophone. I want to do that because it looked like a piano. Then I saw the person standing on the box, waving the arms, and I said, no, I want to do that. So yeah, and that's the thing that just like got me super excited. Because the color guard was great. I like to move, I like to dance. I think if instead of a piano in the living room, if I had been given dance lessons, I probably would have ended up a dancer. But the drum major thing, that was really exciting for me. So I lucked out when my sister got to be captain of the color guard, and she recruited me in, and I was 11. I was just crawling into 7th grade, and they didn't let middle schoolers in the band at that time, but I got lucky. So I started at 11, and the flag that we had back then was 7 feet tall. I was like 4 foot nothing, and a 7 foot tall pole. But didn't matter. I loved it. It was definitely the thing for me, because I was a kid. I had like really bad social anxiety when I was a kid. Did not like school, except for music, band, anything that had to do with music. I was cool. I was relaxed. I was enjoying it. So that was that kid that needed that outlet, that artistic, creative, safe space outlet. And I'm so grateful to my sister for allowing me to join when I was a little one. So I went into 7th grade. I was in the band, but I couldn't be in the band. I couldn't play an instrument yet, too young. But I took like percussion lessons, because they had that as a class. And here's my first experience of a girl doing things that girls didn't normally do back then. It was me and a bunch of boys, a bunch of not very nice boys, and this teacher who was not very good at teaching kids to beginner drum. And so I was, again, miserable, and unfortunately in this situation, the boys won. And I transferred out, and I learned how to play my sister's flute for a year, biding my time till I could get into the band. And once I did, I played mallet percussion. And it was, by then I was with nice boys. They were all boys too, but they were nice boys. So I played mallet percussion all the way through the rest of middle school and high school. But in the fall, I was in the color guard. And I was that kid who, when the guard instructor bailed, which unfortunately happened and still happens sometimes, the guard instructor left. The band director said to me, "Hey, can you finish the season? Can you help us just finish up?" Because I loved it so much, and I guess I just spoke the language, and I was able to relate to people, because that is what band did for me. And I'm sure that's what band has done for so many of you. Band is where I feel safe. Band is where I learned how to talk to people. Band is where I learned how to talk to people I didn't necessarily want to talk to. Band is where I learned how to teach. And I was only 16. I wasn't great at it, but I did okay. And it planted a seed in me that I like this. I like creating, and I like taking what I create and showing it to other people, and then helping them get better. So again, band is my touch thing. But in the winter, I played mallet percussion. So I was all set as we're coming up. You had to be a senior to be a drum major in my band. That my senior year, I was like, by color guard, I gotta do that, because I've been wanting to do that since I was 10. So I made the switch. I was a drum major my senior year. And I had gone to DMA, you know DMA, George Parks Drum Major Academy? Woo! I had gone to DMA for the color guard part the year before to learn leadership skills and color guard stuff, but I didn't get to do the drum major stuff. So my senior year, I got to do the drum major stuff and really dig in to the George Parks way of being a drum major, being a leader, learning. Really, probably one of the best lessons of my life is leadership is about sacrifice, right? And service, right? Yeah. Really important lesson. Yeah, I mean, everybody here already knows that lesson. It's hard, and it can be a challenging lesson to pass on to people who don't get it. But keep at it. Leadership is about sacrifice. That was a great thing. And I wanted to be a drum major just like George. I don't know if you have ever seen any videos of George Parks, but if he were giving this, he would be doing he'd be walking back and forth and stepping over the cable and whatever, because that guy could not stand still. He was very dynamic and he was full of energy, and he would look at you and say, yeah, right? He would say, you, come with me, right? You're coming on this journey with me, and you're gonna love it. Every second of it. And you're like, okay, I'll do it. Yeah. He used to stand on the top of the wall at the stadium down here and conduct, the wall was, I don't know, that tall or something like that. And he would just jump up there and then he would conduct the band. He was a very dynamic drum major, which is the name of his book, okay? So I wanted to be a drum major just like him. So luckily, they paired me, my partner, who was I'm 5'2", he was 6'2". He was a really good friend of mine. I was super intense. I had the George Parks thing. I had the eyes, I had this really intense stare. And he was super chill and really talented and funny and whatever. So the whole band survived the year because that we had a yin and a yang here. Because I was pretty intense. But I loved it. It was the best part of high school for me. Meanwhile, I'm playing the piano. I am in every ensemble in high school. I played mouth percussion in the concert band and the orchestra. I played the piano for the jazz band and the choir. I sang in the choir. I did everything but twirl the baton. I never learned how to twirl the baton. I still have time now. I sang in the choir, but I just sang. I didn't really know that I could sing until I guess I was walking by one of the trumpet players, and he said to my sister, "Wow, she can really sing." And I said, "I can?" Yeah. He told my sister. He didn't tell me. Yeah. So this thing happens too. Apparently, I was kind of talented. My band director thought I was talented. He told my mother he thought I should go to Berkeley, but he didn't tell me. Yeah, right? And me, with my little social anxiety, and whatever, I'm just doing my thing, I just like to play, whatever. Berkeley? What? No way. Me? No. But here's a lesson to take. If you really think somebody's talented, if you think somebody's got the goods, if you want to support them and lift them up, do it. Tell them. Don't tell their mother. Don't tell their sister. I mean, you can tell them too, sure. But tell the person. Because that, maybe if he had told me, hey, I think you could actually go to Berkeley, let's work on it. Maybe I would have gone to Berkeley. Probably not. Because my social anxiety, I wasn't ready. At 17, I wasn't ready. I was not ready for Berkeley. But it was good to know years later when my mom told me that the band director thought I was good enough to go to Berkeley. But that's okay. All right, we're here. So what did I do instead? Well, I applied to 2 schools, UMass and Amherst College in Boston. I got into both, but I am definitely not a city mouse. I am a country mouse. And the thought of going to school in Boston was too scary. So, and UMass was great. There was so much here. And, everybody thought, well, obviously, she's going to be a music major and be in George's band, right? No, that's not really. I was not a music major. I was too scared. And I didn't join George's band because of lots of reasons. I mean, I can say a million reasons. 1, I was burnt out. 2, I had seen them the year before, and at that point I was really into color guard, and I was like, I don't know, and blah, blah, blah. What was it really? I was scared. That stupid anxiety, that nasty old friend kept me from doing that thing. So I didn't. I came to UMass, I was a communications major, I was lucky enough to be on a floor with really fabulous people, great friends, made a family, all of that, but it wasn't band. I didn't know that other part about band. I didn't know that band is where you make your best friends in life. I didn't know that band is the thing where you learn how to deal with college. I didn't know any of that, so I didn't do it. Oh well. Sophomore year, signed up for band. Not the color guard. I wanted to be in the pit. I wanted to be in Tom Hanna's drum line. I got super sick before band camp, didn't go. Womp womp, strike two. Right? Didn't join the band. You know what's coming, right? Because obviously I wouldn't be standing up here if I never had joined the UMass marching band. Okay, get through my sophomore year. I'm a kind of an okay student. Where do I do really well? Music classes. I take general education music classes, nail it every single time. Do I switch to being a music major? No. Why? Too scared. So then I'm like, okay, I gotta think this through. I need to take a semester off. I need to decide, is music the thing for me? Or you just continue get this communications degree and figure out my life. So I took a semester off, came back. I'm like, all right, I'm gonna get involved. I joined the Winter Guard. They had a small Winter Guard back then. I joined the Winter Guard. I did that for a semester, and it was not a great experience. Boy, I keep saying crappy things about UMass. Sorry. UMass is really, really cool. Okay, I just had to get there. So it was not a great experience. Like, no, thanks anyway. But the leadership was changing. They were getting a new instructor for the next year. And the new instructor was a friend, and he's like, please come. I want you to come. I want you to be on the student staff. Please march in the fall. You'll really like it. Okay. Again, I didn't really commit. I'm like, we'll see. All summer long, I worked here. And then, like 2 days before band camp starts, I run into him on campus, like face to face. And he's like, you're coming to band camp, right? And I was right in my face, and I, okay, I'll do it. So I did, and that, my dear friends, is where it all began, finally, for me. I finally joined the band. I finally got to see what is this thing. I got it. It took 3 years, and a lot of hints, a lot of clues, a little kick in the butt, but I finally got there. So where's the lesson in that? Sometimes the right path for you is staring you right in the face and jumping up and down, and you can't see it. Just keep going. Eventually, you'll trip over it, and you may end up where you are meant to be. Because clearly, this is where I was meant to be. So, phew! Thanks for hanging on, UMass. So, all right. So where am I? I am in the band. Very exciting. Marched in the band for 2 years. As Eric told you, I was the guard captain, and then, and I loved it. You know, I loved George Parks. I loved Tom Hanna. I loved just everything about it. So I had seen the band at our state high school festival. It's called MICA. So the band did an exhibition every year, and that, of course, was the huge highlight of the competition. I'd seen that since I was 10. And they used to wear these long red coats and these white sashes, and it was just, really dynamic, just amazing to look at. And I had put off band for so long, and I'll tell you the story about my very first game. I'm in it, it's hot, it's September, I'm really tired because we didn't sleep the night before, because the flags still need to be sewn, and all of that. Familiar? Anybody? Familiar? Yeah. And the sisters helped. But we were up all night, and I was super cranky. We used to be in Old Chapel, which is a beautiful old building here on campus. That was the home of the marching band. Hundreds of people stuffed into this beautiful Gothic-looking chapel. Anyway, I'm super tired. People are cranking at each other down in the bathroom, whatever. Hurry up! Blah. And I was kind of over it. But then I get to the door, and I push the door open, and I see this giant wave of red coats, long red coats, white sashes, shakos, and I actually, it caught my breath. I went, this is where I'm supposed to be. This is so cool. So I hope you have a moment like that in your life, where you meet your destiny, and your destiny says, duh, thanks for coming. And then I went on, and we did halftime, and it was really super fun. We did can, we had these can skirts and all that. It was really great. It's all over, and I'm standing at St. George Parks, and I'm like, oh, that was so much fun. And he goes, yeah, they're gonna love it again at post-game. We do a post-game, after the game. And I looked at him and I go, I have to do it again? Nobody told me we had to do it twice. Doesn't matter, still loved it. So I did that, and I worked. When it was all over, and I'm getting ready to graduate, Tom Hannum, you all know Tom Hannum? You heard the name? He is a legend in the marching percussion world. He is the top of the top. Anyway, we are so lucky. He is our associate band director, has been for almost 4 years. Anyway, he came to me one day, I was spinning my flag, and he's like, hey, what are you doing next fall after you graduate? You want to stick around and teach the color guard? And I said, yeah. But back then, you had to be a graduate student. It was a TA position. And so then I'm thinking, oh, I gotta go to graduate school. Graduate school? I can't go to graduate school. There's that old nasty friend again right there. You can't go to graduate school. You're not a grad student. But I did. I got in, and I like, well, what am I going to go to graduate school for? Well, I know I want to be a teacher. I'll go to graduate school for education. So I enrolled as a grad student in education, but really, that fall, I was 100%, 100 and more percent dedicated to making that color guard the best color guard they have ever seen here. I was maniacal. I was so focused on that. I had plans on top of plans on top of plans. I was intense planning, it was intense creativity, it was intense execution of my plan. I had, thank goodness, friends who had been in the guard with me before, who supported me so they didn't kill me, because there was no deviating from the way I wanted it done that fall. And it was a wonderful, for me, a wonderful experience. It built me. It built me as a teacher. It built me as a leader. And it built me creatively. I mean, it locked me into this program. I've taught color guard in other places, other universities and high schools and things like that. But I know this program so well because, I kind of built that thing in the 90s. It wasn't really maybe the healthiest thing for me because I got really sick after that, and you got to balance your life. But it was a great beginning to a chapter to build this program, and I learned a lot about myself. However, I did not do very well in graduate school. Bye-bye. So, but I kept teaching the guard and working in an office job, and I did that for 5 years. 5 years go by. And I realized that I've kind of got to the end of my abilities with this color guard. I couldn't make them any better. I'm not saying they're the best that could ever be. I'm saying that I couldn't make them better. I wanted them to be better, but I didn't have the vocabulary. I didn't have the teaching skills because I hadn't learned how to be a teacher yet. I couldn't do it, and I was just super frustrated. Because back in high school, we had a guard instructor, but they left. So my training was incomplete. Those were great teachers back in high school. They were big names, but they couldn't stay with us, and I had to learn stuff on my own. So I get to the point 5 years, and I just can't bring them anywhere. I don't want to make them stale. I gotta go. And so instead, I went back to music. Wow, music. I remember you. Instead of just moving to music, I was making music. I sang in the vocal jazz ensemble here at UMass. Wow, that was super fun. And I got another little boot from destiny. We moved away. My husband, not my husband yet then, but my husband to be, was going to get his PhD. So I moved with him to South Carolina. South Carolina? I've been there. It should be fun. It was hot. So we moved to South Carolina, and I worked with that marching band, the University of South Carolina Marching Band. Very different program. Big big time football. Yeah, any big time football schools here? Yeah, it's different. There's some. It's a different experience, right? Here, people go to football games to see the band. There, 30,000 people in the stands, right? Before the game even starts. Yeah, really different experience. Planes flying overhead. Dude drops out of a plane with a parachute, lands on the 50 with the game ball. I'm like, what is happening? This is insane. It was very different, and I enjoyed it. But what I really wanted to do, and I finally figured it out, I wanted to teach music. So that old nasty friend came back, but I told him to shut up long enough to audition for music school as a voice major. Really wasn't that hard. I got in. And I loved music school. Music school was super, super fun. Now, maybe because I was pushing 30, right? I wasn't 18. I wasn't afraid so much. I had a little bit of life experience under my belt. I knew what kind of a learner I was. I knew what I needed to do better. So I had a great time. Learned tons of stuff. And here, again, that pathway that you don't even know that's the one that you need to take. Here's where I found the other half of me. Early childhood music, right? We talked a little bit about it already, right? Are we born as musicians? What do you think?
Yes.
Are you sure?
Yes.
Yeah, you are born to make music, right? So picture a baby, and the baby is in the crib, and the baby is maybe like 6 or 7 months old, and the baby's breathing, just like hanging out, watching the mobile up there. Baby takes a breath and goes, oh, oh. Ever heard that sound? Oh. Is that a speaking voice or a singing voice? That's a singing voice. Babies sing before they talk. They are singing. Definitely, right? You ever see a baby play? And, oh, hello, here's a toy. Here's a better toy. You ever see your baby play? Baby plays? Baby plays? Do you ever stop and watch the baby? That baby is keeping a steady tempo. It's its own tempo. It's the baby's own tempo. But it's steady. And they'll stop. And then they'll do it again. And they'll stop. Oh, they are musicians, right? So how do we tap that? How do we help them go from that to being able to play an instrument or sing and tune it later? Where is the disconnect? Where suddenly they're now in first grade music and they're like, beat? What? You want me to do what? I can't do that. Yeah, you can. You just forgot. So I learned about that. They have a music development center there at the University of South Carolina. And the guy who developed this theory of early childhood music development, his name is Edwin Gordon. Anybody heard of Edwin Gordon? Gordon's music learning theory. If you've never heard of it, take an afternoon on Google and go down that rabbit hole because it is fascinating. Babies learn music like they learn language. So, but when I went to music school, I thought I was going to teach choir because that's what I knew. But as soon as I walked past this development center and they needed workers, I'm like, yes, I need a job. I was afraid, again, I was afraid of babies. I was afraid of babies. They're little, I can't control them. They're gonna do whatever they wanna do, and I don't know what to do for them when they make weird noises. It was all good. That lasted about a week, and then I was in. So I spent the next 10 years teaching early childhood music. And it's legit, first of all. Let me just send that word out. It's legit. It's super, super fun. And I think it's important to our culture that we get them that young and that they figure out what music is. Can you imagine how many kids would be in band if from the time they were 2, they were listening to and moving to music in different tonalities and meters, if they were singing songs in Phrygian, if they were chanting in 5/8 when they were 3. Yeah, because it would be a natural language to them. And you guys are like, what? Yeah, you could do it. Babes know this, they hear it all the time when they come to my music class. They can do 5/8, you can do it too. Yeah, because they heard it when they were little. So, anyway, I'll get off that soapbox now. So, then what happened? Well, we moved to Virginia, and I stopped teaching early childhood music class. And when we moved to Virginia, it just so happened to coincide with another giant life event for me. George Parks passed away. Oh, yeah. It's hard to stand in this room and talk about him. Just hold on. Ooh, okay. When George died, we had over 1,000 alumni on the field for our homecoming band. 1,000 people, plus another probably 1,000 in the stands. And they kicked me out of retirement, and so I came back to do the flags for the homecoming. And I hadn't touched a flag in, 10 years, 12 years. But, it's like riding a bike. Came right back. And just working with those people again, working with best friends in my life, of course. A bunch of people I didn't know who came after me. But we all knew this, we all had the same, it's almost like we all had the same parent, right? We all grew up together. And teaching them for one morning was like 2 hours in one morning, doing the routine, it just sparked it back up again. So I'm like, okay, well, I'm not doing early childhood music again. Let me just flip back that coin. I'm gonna go back to marching band. So I started teaching marching band in Virginia, and a miracle occurred. My husband got a job here at UMass, and we came back to UMass. And the very first thing I did after we got the kids in school and unpacked the house, well, probably didn't even unpack the house, I came to the band building and said, how's it going? Can I work with the guard again? And thankfully they said, sure. And so I did. And then a couple of years later, they hired me to be the assistant director of the UMass Minuteman Marching Band, which still blows my mind today. So I took them we did Macy's together, and then when I took over the program, I wasn't quite as maniacal as I was in the 90s when I took it over, but I definitely made some plans. But the great part about being with UMass now is I don't just do the color guard. I do the color guard, and I thankfully have people to help me do the color guard. I get to work with all the winds. I'm the visual coordinator. So I get to work with the winds, I get to work with the drum majors on leadership skills, I get to work with the ad staff on, ad staffy stuff, which is how the band survives. You all know that, you're all service people. The band cannot survive without what you do for them, okay? I didn't really get that when I was younger. I totally get it now. Thank you for your service. So I get to do all these cool things now as assistant the band director, and it's pretty great. So that's my journey through music. So what? What does it mean to be a woman in music doing this kind of stuff? Well, it's kind of hard to explain it when you are a woman. It's like what you know. I can't explain it from an outside perspective, but what I can tell you is, and it's probably not different than anything that you would hear about women in society. It's sometimes hard. It's sometimes harder. But I kind of feel this a change in the wind. Do you feel it coming? I hope you feel it coming. Because your generation, they thought this, 40 years ago in the 70s and with the ERA, and we didn't quite get there. But I think this generation might actually push us far enough to get there. Do you know what I'm talking about? I'm talking about, I would love to be here, not talking about being a woman doing something and saying, well, that's weird. Why are you talking about being a woman doing something? That's like talking about being a human doing something, right? I want to get there. I want to get there. But in the meantime, you got to live in reality. And so what have I learned about being a woman here? Well, my mom was kind of a low-key feminist. She had 6 brothers, only daughter, 6 brothers, Irish parents, mother in the kitchen, father worked 3 jobs, right? She was not allowed to do the things that the boys were allowed to do. She couldn't, she was allowed to play sports, but not if it interfered with doing the dishes, right? She couldn't go to her softball tournament because she had to do the dishes. She was not allowed to go to college. All the boys went to college. She could go to nursing school or teacher's college. She wanted to be a lawyer. She chose nursing, right? So, and she had 5 kids, and well, she did it all. She was one of those kind of ladies. But she was not Gloria Steinem. She wasn't shouting about it, right? She just did it. That was my role model. Pretty good role model, right? Also, I don't know if it's an ethnic thing, if it's necessarily an Irish thing, but it's like this in my family. I stand up for myself. I couldn't always do that because I had that nasty old anxiety friend on my back lots of my life. But when it came to this job, when it came to my students, my color guard, my band, I stood up. And when I came back here, I saw some things that I didn't like. I saw women, young women, whose voices were not being heard for no logical reason. And so I said something. And I helped them, hopefully. I helped these young women find a way to say what they needed to say and be heard. Here's a little tip. Find an ally, right? Don't just rage against the machine. Raging against the machine is important in revolution. Who's talking revolution? It's important, but don't just rage against the machine. You gotta find an ally. Because if you just put the sound out and they stop listening to you, you're not gonna go anywhere. But you find an ally and this ally says, hey, have you talked to so-and-so maybe about this? Or let me see what we can do on this end over here, right? It's not always easy to be. And there's the stuff the intangible too. There's the, oh, wasn't invited to that meeting side of things. Oh, nobody asked my opinion on that. I wonder why. All you gotta do is you gotta first see these things are happening, and use your voice. Use your voice in a diplomatic, maybe political way, but use your voice. Don't take any kind of mistreatment. Just don't take it. That's so big, isn't it? So like, what do you mean don't take it? I don't know. Every situation is different. But as a young adult, coming up in the world that you're coming up in, I see some things, because I have a daughter who's 16, almost 17, so she'll be finishing high school next year. I see so many things that I think, oh man, I wish I were your age now. I wish I had the power of my generation to say almost the same things all the way across, right? If I had all these people that had my back. I wish I had that. Didn't really have that. Use it. Use it. Help each other. What else would I tell young people right now? Get off your phone. Tell that to my kids. So I had to say it to you too. Yeah. I would really seriously, because my old nasty friend anxiety, take your mental health seriously. Another thing that I love about this generation is that you talk about it. You talk about your mental health. You talk about your struggles. And it's been documented, your struggles are extreme compared to my generation. In some cases, right? There's just more of it. It's okay to talk about it. It's okay to ask for help. But understand that you need self-care as well. right? If you're struggling, do the things that you need to do to help yourself feel better, really. Because it took me a long time to get that jerk off my back. It's gone now, mostly. It's nice. It's a nice feeling. Yeah. But I would say, just another parent note, take very seriously this literature that is telling us that the use of screen time and social media is affecting your mental health in a negative way. It's hard because it's a straight up addiction. You know, it's really hard. It's hard for me too, and I'm old. It's hard, but take it seriously because I worry. I worry about my kids. I worry about you guys. I want you to be vibrant and healthy, and not walk off the curb and get hit by a car. Right? Get off your phone. So I think that's my journey and my little bit talk of feminism there. Does anybody have any questions for me in this morning? No questions. All right. I got one question.
Sorry, I'm trying to figure out how I want to say this. Do you ever find that when you're in leadership positions that you maybe share or have like adjacent male counterparts that people are less likely to listen to you, and how do you combat that?
Yeah. I do. How do I combat that? Jenna, how do I combat that? What'd you say?
Thank you.
Yeah.
You speak up.
Yeah. I don't know. Jenna was one of the ones when I came back, one of the young women. Okay, so here's the thing. If it's a peer situation, that's challenging. Okay, but when I was a drum major in high school and then, I was the intense one and I had my partner was a super chill one, that was helpful, right? I had an ally, right? So if I had that kind of situation, honestly, I was like a bit of a pit bull. I would have just been like, and he would have been like, chill. But now, as a grown-up, I use logic, right? If someone is trying to usurp my power, I question them and I question their rationale. And I say, well, why would you do it like that? Or why don't we do it like this? Or, like that. If it's someone who's usurping my power with actions, then I do other actions to be like, yeah, no, we're gonna do it like this. Okay? It's a weird thing, like my marching band persona is very different from my early childhood persona. Okay? I don't teach early childhood like I teach marching band. Yeah, because marching band, it's like, this is what I said, and this is what I want you to do, and this is what I want you to do right now, and what happened, right? And you get the look. Right? That's marching band. And I love you. Early childhood is very different. I don't tell the little kids to be like, yo, go put your stuff away and get back here in 5 seconds. Yeah. But yeah, that's how I would do that. If it's peers, it's challenging. Talking to them one-on-one, but definitely finding an ally. And don't take it. I guess that's number one. Don't take it. Because as soon as you take it and they see that they can do that, they're going to do it again. And then they're going to do it a little bit more. When they see that you're not going to take it, it happens less. Hopefully. Any other questions?
I know that you said that you were afraid on a lot of things, and that's why you didn't do things the way that you wanted to at first. But do you think that it was important that you went through your life the way that you did, or?
Yeah, they're asking if I think it was important that I think of my life as not a Monopoly game. I didn't go like this, pass go. It was like Candyland. Right? Was that important? I think it was. I had to go through all of these things. Even though it was hard and I kick myself sometimes for the things that I didn't do, the regrets that I have. One of so many of the regrets that I had that I didn't do then, I can still do. Like, I regret not being a performance major in music school. But I could still study, I could still sing, I could still get somewhere. I regret, one of my biggest regrets that I cannot undo was I regret not marching drum corps in the summer. Such a huge regret. If you are at all interested in it, do it. Because back then, there were senior corps, but there really wasn't one around me, and there wasn't one with the kind of color they wanted to do. And I was going to march the cadets my age out year, and I didn't do it. That jerk kept me from doing it. And so that's one of my biggest regrets. But I absolutely think that I had to go through that to get where I am. And I'm in a place now, I'm old, that's fine. But I'm fine, and that guy's gone, and I'm in a great place. I'm happy where I am. So,
The things you said, like, don't take it as like an educational technique for not letting people get away with certain things. So I know like early childhood development, if you let that get away with like little stuff, they're going to keep trying the same way as like the adults would. So what are some more similarities you see between like early childhood education and maybe dealing with people the same age?
that's an awesome question. Asking, because in early childhood, it's the same philosophy of when you're teaching a young one, you don't let them repeat that same thing you don't want them to do, right? You redirect, you show them, like if a kid hits, because that's their form of expression, they're not being violent or aggressive, that's just how they express themselves, you teach them gentle. You don't let them go on hitting. And so the question was, do I see any other similarities between early childhood development and dealing with adults? Well, yes, I do. Because adults can act like babies. Honestly. Yeah, they so super can. And a lot of it has to do with ego. When you're an adult, it can have to do with ego. So, and me too. So I try not to, but it can happen. I think another thing that I went through when I got rid of my anxiety friend was that I also was like, I don't need an ego. I don't need a big giant ego. I'm good. I hit the pinnacle when we did the Rose Parade and my marching band nailed the corner. I was like, I'm good. I'm good. I can do other things now. Yeah, I can achieve other things. But other similarities, yeah. Definitely ego, kind of, if you notice it and you're like, that's about their ego and not really about me, I think you just use dialogue and kill them with kindness. That's another thing I learned from George Parks. He didn't say kill them with kindness, that's not his vernacular, that was mine. But George, when he would come up against an obstacle, he would smile, he would take their hand, he would tell them a joke, he would, kind of put them at their ease, and then he would be like, and by the way, can I bring my 300 people into your school so they can use the restroom? That kind of thing. But yeah, I'm trying to find another balance between early childhood and adult, but no, it's definitely there. If you study early childhood development, and it's going to help you with grown-ups too, for sure. Yeah. That's a great question. I think about that too. What if I had never, if I had gone 3 strikes and never done the UMass marching band? I think I probably would have, I would have never met my husband, so I would have never gone to South Carolina, so I probably would have never gone to music school either. I don't know. I would have been an office worker, which is what I was doing. I probably would be singing in community choirs. I wouldn't have been challenged in the way that I was. I would have been challenged in different ways. And I'd probably be more like the rest of my family, which they're fine, I love that. But they're not performers. I was born to be a performer. I maybe would have found another outlet, but it wouldn't have been as, super awesome as this. Yeah.
We've got time for one more.
Okay.
First off, I want to say thank you for talking about your mental health with us. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Number two, what do you think has been the most helpful thing to you in your life dealing with that gross jerk?
Jerk, yeah. I'll tell you, it was a combination of therapy and nutrition. I've never been on pharmaceuticals. My body doesn't react well to pharmaceuticals, so I've tried to do everything but. And when it got really bad, I finally tried therapy. It was cognitive therapy that sort of took me back to figure out where did this all begin. And I didn't have to go for very long. I just went for a few months, and it was like, and it was the kind of therapy that got into my nervous system. I forget what it's called. I wish I could remember for you. But it takes you back, and it takes it out of your nervous system, because clearly the nervous system is the thing that that's like causing that anxiety. It's just a trigger that keeps coming. And then nutrition. I see a functional medicine doctor. Functional medicine is dealing with your DNA and taking nutritional supplements to help keep you on a healthy path. And I just talk myself out of it now. Instead of talking myself into it, if you're the kind of person that's stuck in your head, that was me. That's so me. Now I talk myself out of it. Good question. Oh, we have to be done. Well, thank you, everybody.
Awesome, right? I know. My heart's a little warmer now. That was pretty cool. And now I think we are all very, very inspired. Yeah? Cool. So, we want to thank her again. Your applause was wonderful, but we also have a special thank you. First of all, something that we created this year is we have Women in Music speaker cups. I wanted to give y'all something useful, all of our speakers. So, something for you to keep your beverage in. And on behalf of the national organization for taking time out of your Friday to speak with us, we would like to offer you honorary membership into the national chapter of Tau Beta Sigma.